That's the name of Aleph Hey Yud Hey, the name of the possibility of becoming. That's the first kavanah, the first intention, the first immersion. The second immersion is to think about all the things that are constricting in your life, all the things that are holding you back, all the things that you feel that are painful and you don't see any resolve. Meditate on that, how that can be a possibility of actually creating birth. The third one is to think about, through the name Eilad, think about actually becoming this new person. So focus more on the positive. Incidentally, according to many sources, this name of Aleph Lamed Daled is also a name to meditate on, to ward off any types of ayin hara, any types of negative eye. And the idea of negative eye is that you're influenced by others. That's the simple definition of negative eye, is that you assume energy from other people. You absorb energy from other people. So if a person is, let's say, jealous of you or has other things that doesn't think positive about you, and you are receptive to receive that person's influence, so not just, some people feel bad about themselves because someone told them something, right? Someone says, you're not this or you're not that, and you feel bad about yourself. So you're being influenced, you're absorbing their energy. It doesn't necessarily have to be verbal. It could even be someone looks at you a certain way, and you absorb that, and you really feel small about yourself because you're absorbing that person's energy. So the idea of Eilad is also to protect yourself from that, because it's also your potential of your becoming. The fourth immersion is to think about the unity of the two names, which is becoming and the birth. And the fifth one is to actually just focus on the new you that is becoming. And these are the 5 intentions that we should have when we immerse ourselves in the mikvah. So you have intention for 1 is simply from the Baal Shem Tov to immerse yourself one time. 2 would be from the Arizal to get rid of the old and assume the new. 3 is to receive a new way of acting, a new way of feeling, and a new way of thinking. 4 would be to be surrounded by the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, by the name of Hashem, by the infinite potential of the universe, the infinite potential of Hashem, of the Creator. 5 would be this, so the Baal Shem Tov, again, to do these in 5 stages, each one with another intention. There's also an intention, just like we have the 3, where a person is letting go of their reactive instincts. They're letting go of their emotional reactive responses. They're letting go of their constricted way of thinking in each immersion. You can do this in 6 stages, which is you're letting go of your nefesh, ruach, neshama, or your actions, your emotions, and your intelligence. That's on the first 3. And then the next 3 is that you're assuming a new way of thinking, a new way of feeling, and a new way of doing. So not just getting rid of something, so you go once, you're getting rid of one way, that's my way of doing. Next immersion is my way of feeling. Next immersion is my way of thinking. Now I want to have a new way of feeling, a new way of thinking, a new way of doing. So the first immersion, a new way of doing. Second immersion, a new way of feeling. The fourth, the 5th will be a new way of feeling, and the 6th will be a new way of thinking. So you're doing this in 2 sets. That would be the 6th. There's also a kavanah, which is mentioned by some Sephardic Kabbalists, to go 7 times. And the 7 times, obviously, we're going to respond to the 7 days of the week. So what you're going to do is, as you're transitioning from a weekday reality into a Shabbos reality, so what you want to do is let go of things that were done in the week, let go of the reality that was in the week. So you want to say, okay, Sunday was Sunday, now I'm letting go of it. Whatever I achieved on Sunday, now I just want to be in a place of being. I don't want to be focused on my work. So Sunday was Sunday, I'm letting go of it. Monday, second immersion, I'm letting go of Monday, I'm letting go of Tuesday, I'm letting go of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm letting go of all these days. This is my healing, that I'm going to let go of it. And now the 7th immersion is that I'm now entering into a new place. I'm entering into a new reality, and this is my 7th immersion that I'm entering into Shabbos. So again, this can be done, anytime that you want to let go of things. So the process of the immersions can be the letting go, or it can also be the assuming of something new. There's also a tradition to go 8 times. And 8 times corresponds to not only, so you're letting go of the 6 days of the week, you're assuming the holiness, the Kedusha of Shabbos, but then you also go to the 8th level, which is the world to come, the perfection. So Shabbos is a glimmer of what the possibility of a future is, but it's not actually the future. It's Me'ein Olam Haba, it's a possibility of a future. And if you're really celebrating Shabbos on a high level, then you can actually experience something what it means to let go of all negativity and all smallness. But the world is not healed, and the world is not redeemed. So you do the 7th time to assume for your personal Shabbos that you're going to receive for yourself, and then the 8th time will be to meditate more on the possibility of the future and the world to come. There is no real tradition of 9, and 10, there's a tradition, but if you look through it, it's from the Chassam Sofer and the Chidah, others talk about it, but it has to do with, it's a little more complicated, a little more harsh, so we're not going to talk about it. It has to do with the 4 forms of death, and you're assuming these forms of death upon yourself, whatever. We'll talk about it some other time. I just want to give you just a very quick general kavanah. So these are just kavanahs in specific related between entering from Friday, entering into a place that is Shabbos. But what is the general kavanah? What is the general meditation, the general focus when a person wants to immerse himself in a mikvah? So there are three names. One is the name Aleph Hey Yud Hey, which is Eka, becoming. I'll become. I am or I am. One is the name of Hashem, which is the Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yud Hey and the Vav Hey, which corresponds to the infinite one. That's why the letters that comprise the words of Yud Hey Vav Hey spell the words Haya Hava V'Yia, past, present, and future, so it represents infinity. And then there's the name of Aleph Daled Nun Yud. That's actually the way we pronounce Yud Kei Vav Kei. Today, when you say Baruch Atah Ado, and you say Hashem's name, God's name, you're not actually pronouncing the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yud Kei Vav Kei is an unpronounceable name. Not only don't we know how it's pronounced, but it was never a pronounceable name. It's a name that's unpronounceable. And then you have the Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which is sort of the manifestation or the reality that allows us to access the Yud Kei Vav Kei. So when you say Baruch Atah Aleph Daled Nun Yud, Hashem, you pronounce it as Yud Kei Vav Kei. But whenever you pronounce Yud Kei Vav Kei as Aleph Daled Nun Yud, you always have to have the intention of the unity between Yud Kei Vav Kei and Aleph Daled Nun Yud. They represent 2 different names. When you say Baruch Atah Hashem, you shouldn't just have intention for Aleph Daled Nun Yud. Aleph Daled Nun Yud means the master of the universe, or the Lord. Maybe that's the close translation to what they mean. The Lord of the universe, or the master of the universe. Yud Kei Vav Kei means the infinite one. So when you say Baruch Atah, blessed you Hashem, you should not simply think the master of the universe, but you should think you are the source of blessing, you the infinite one, who's also the master of the universe. You have to have both intentions. And that's why if you look at some siddhars, some prayer books, they actually have the Yud Kei Vav Kei spelled out, and then you have within it the Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which is, so you should always meditate on both names simultaneously. You should not only meditate on one of the names. So we have these 3 names, Aleph Hey Yud Hey, which is Eka, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and Aleph Daled Nun Yud. In numeric value, let's do this very quickly. In numeric value, the Aleph Hey Yud Hey, we said, Aleph is 1, Hey 5, Yud 10, Hey 5. In numeric value, that's 21. Yud Kei Vav Kei is, Yud is Hey, Yud is 10, Hey is 5, Vav is 6, Hey is 5, is 26. Aleph Daled Nun Yud is Aleph is 1, Dalet is 4, Nun is 50, Yud is 10, is 65, right? So 65 plus 21 plus 26 is 112. What is 112? 112 is Shem Yavak. Is actually a sacred name, one of the names of Hashem. We have this name, we find this name when Jacob, Yaakov, cross over the river and goes back, and then he encounters Esav, his brother. If you're familiar with that story, the story is that he crosses Maver Yavak, he crosses over the river of Yavak to collect his pachim ktanim, his little things that were left over across the river. So he crosses over Maver of Yavak. And what does he do? He goes to collect his little things, his little shmunchkes that he has left over on the other side of the river. It's a very strange episode. Why would Yaakov, the very wealthy man who's afraid for his life, go back to get a few extra tools that were left on the other side? So the way it's understood is that the word Yavak is actually the numeric value of Shem Eya, Shem Adnai, and Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, 112. And Yavak stands for a word, for 3 words. Yavak is Yichud, Bracha, and Kedusha. The word Yavak spells 3 words, which is Yichud, unification, Bracha is blessing, and Kedusha is holiness. That what Yaakov was trying to do is create a Yichud unification. We'll explain what this means. Creating a unification with him and the objects that he has in his life. Because objects that we have in our life is there for a purpose. And that means that there's a soul connection between us and the objects that we have. And not only with objects, but everything that's in our life. The people that are in our life, and sometimes people we can't figure out why they're in our life, there's also a purpose for that. So we have to create Yichud as the first level, is this, an identity, a unification. Bracha is to recognize the blessing of those things. And then Kedusha, that's the way it becomes holy, becomes sacred. So these are 3 stages. There are 3 general stages in terms of development. When we develop, we always develop on 3 stages. We have to go through 3 stages. And the 3 stages are also, in Hebrew, it's called Achna, Havdalah, and Amtaka. They all start with a Hey. Achna is, we'll do this in English, and we'll try to start each word with S. So Achna is submission. Havdalah is separation. And Amtaka is sweetening. So you have submission. This is according to the Baal Shem Tov, that any growth, any movement has 3 stages. The first stage is Hachna, submission. Second stage is separation. Third stage is sweetening. What does this mean? Let's say someone does something. Let's say you've done something negative. Not anyone in this room, but let's say you know someone that knows someone that has done something negative. So the first thing, if you want to really transform and you really want to change your path and you really want to change your way, the first thing that you have to do is there has to be a level of achna, which is submission. What does submission mean? That you have to own and take responsibility for that action. Right? That's the definition of a mature person. The definition of an immature person is someone that says, things just happen. It's not my responsibility. I was in a situation, and this and that, and the other person would influence, but it's never my fault. So the first thing in any type of real growth, if you really want to develop, the first thing is you have to say, if I messed up, and I spilled the milk, and I ruined it, and I did something wrong. That's the first level is achna. You're submitting to the fact that you're responsible for this action. That's the first thing. Stage number 2 is if you're just in a place of submission, which is that you acknowledge that you're connected to this, and it's your fault. If you're just thinking about this and continuously thinking about it, it's your fault, eventually you start beating up on yourself, and you're not going to get anywhere. Okay, so it's your fault, therefore. So the next stage, which is very important in any type of growth, is separation. What is separation? Separation means to tell yourself, this is something that you have done, it's not who you are. And you have to make a distinction between the person that you are and the things that you do. Saying, okay, it's true, I did these horrible things. I own these things that I have done. I take full responsibility for those things. But it's not who I am. I'm actually a better person than this. So you separate yourself from those actions. That's stage number 2. Because otherwise you can't untangle yourself from this. So the first thing is you just acknowledge it. The second thing is that you separate yourself and you say that these are things that I've done, it's not who I am. So that's stage number 2.
What's the pronunciation of the Hebrew word for that?
Havdalah. So that's the second level is separation. The third level is, remember, you acknowledge it, now you separate it from it, but the truth is it's still there. You made this mess, you have to clean it up. So the third level is now that you have to go back and clean it up and create a sweetening or hamtaka, a sweetening of that event. Fix it. So you can't immediately fix it, because if you're just thinking about the problem and trying to fix it, and you don't actually think that you're a redeemed person or a healthy person that can fix it, you're just going to get deeper into the problem. So that's why stage number 2 is very important. The first thing is acknowledgement. Stage number 2 is that you're separating from it, and you're acknowledging that there's a healthy person here that can actually deal with the issue. And stage 3 is that you go back to it and you start to redeem it and try to fix what you have done. So these are three stages: Hachna, Havdalah, and Hamtaka.
The first one is Achna'a.
Hachna'a, yeah, with an ayin. First one is Achna, which is the idea of submission. Now let's go back into the mikvah. When we talk about a person that's tameh, we say the idea of tameh means sasim, someone that's stuck and wants to free themselves and wants to move forward. There are 3 names that you have to meditate on. First name, and these are connected with the actual dimensions of the mikveh. The dimensions of the mikveh is that the mikveh itself has a ground, a floor, which is solid. That's the place that you're standing. That corresponds to the name of Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud. That's your Adnus. That is the reality of what is. The acknowledgement of who you are, the acknowledgement of your reality that you are. That's what you're standing on. That's me at this present moment, right? Unredeemed, just standing there on the floor. This is my connection. This is where I am. This is where I am presently. Once you immerse yourselves, once you enter into the mikvah and you're actually under the water, all of a sudden you're no longer the person that you were before you entered the mikvah, because when you're underwater, you're actually stopping to be. Right? Just because we need oxygen in order to live, so when we're underwater, we're stopping to breathe. And we're stopping to breathe, we're surrendering ourselves. We're entering to a place where we're no longer the expressive self that was 2 minutes ago. So that is, the second stage is letting go of everything. Stopping to breathe, going underwater, being in the place where we recognize that the 4 walls and the water that's surrounding us is the Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Yud Kei Vav Kei is the name of Hashem that represents infinity and represents transcendence, right? That's the place where we're no longer a being that's connected to this particular story. It's no longer the person that I messed up this thing and this is what I've done, because it's no longer a you. You stop being you. That's the place of your infinite you. If you want to use this in another way of looking at this, is that your Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud is your physical self, your physical narrative, and the Yud Kei Vav Kei is your infinite potential. So when you're entering into the mikveh, the first thing is that you acknowledge who I am. Who am I entering into the mikveh? Who's the person that's entering into this mikveh? It's me, with my problems and with my issues. This is who I am. Now you completely become immersed in the mikveh, and you let go of everything. That's the second stage, where there's complete separation from everything. You're an infinite potential that's connected with the infinite potential of all and the source of all life, the Yud Kei Vav Kei. You're swimming in the water, in the wombs of creation. You're pre-created. You're in a primordial state. Then there's a recognition of the water above your head. What is the water above your head? The water above your head is the place that you're going to emerge from. Right? Eventually you're going to come out of the water. So it is water, but yet your image is going to emerge from that water above you. What does the water above you represent? That represents the name of Aleph Hey Yud Hey. And what is Aleph Hey Yud Hey? Eka, that represents the understanding of becoming. So when you're going to emerge from the mikvah, you're going to become a new you. So first you enter as your old you. Stage 2, you let go of all of you. There's no longer a you because you're not breathing and you're in the Yud Kei Vav Kei and your infinite potential. And then you say, okay, now this is not the end of the story, because I have to go on living my life. And I have to emerge out of this mikvah. I have to emerge into the place for life and I have to participate in life. So I'm going to emerge as my new possibility of self, or my new self that I want to imagine myself to become. And that's emerging from the name of Aleph Hey Yud Hey. So in the mikveh itself, we actually have these 3 dimensions. And this is why it's the sacred name of the name Yavak, of Yichud Bracha Kedusha. Yichud Bracha Kedusha is when we can actually go back into our past and reclaim things that we've done in our past from a healthy way. and from a redeemed way, to actually do unity with it. Say it's, I've done it, yes, I've messed this up, but I recognize now that it's actually a source of a lot of blessing in my life, because what I've done with this information brought a lot of blessings and not the opposite of blessings. And therefore, it's a holy thing that happened. Even though when it happened, it felt like very constricting, and it felt as a tameh, it felt something that was impure. Impure is the opposite of life. It felt something that was constricting of life. But now that I go through this process, I can recognize that this actually brought me to a place of a higher understanding. So it's a yichud versus do unification. Then you see it as a blessing, and then you see it as something that's sacred and something that's holy. And this is the 3 stages that we can do any type of mikvah, not just before Shabbos, any type of immersion in the mikvah. And I would suggest that even if you're just walking down the street, you can just meditate on these 3 names, because you're always who you are, your infinite potential, and who do you want to become. These are always these 3 realities that are always present. But certainly when you can immerse yourself actually in a mikvah itself, you can have this deeper kavanah, and it can become that much more meaningful. Okay.